Drive this yacht and I'll marry you. The words dripped from Blair Huntington's lips like venom disguised as champagne. The 33-year-old CEO of Huntington Maritime stood at her private dock in Lower Manhattan, ice-blue eyes scanning the scruffy man before her with pure disgust. Tuesday morning, 8:47 a.m. Blair needed to reach Jersey City urgently. A $50 million contract waited for her signature, and the Holland Tunnel was choked with a 2-hour nightmare. Her yacht captain had called in sick. Marcus Vail, 35, had wandered onto the dock seeking quiet. His worn hoodie was clean, his jeans faded, but his silver watch caught the morning sun, the only possession from his old life. Weathered olive skin, days-old stubble, and dark hair falling across his forehead completed the picture of a man society had forgotten. "I can navigate that yacht to Jersey City," Marcus said, his voice steady. Blair's assistants, Trevor and Madison, erupted in laughter. "Should we call security?" Madison clutched her Prada bag, nearly doubling over. Blair's Louboutin heels clicked against the dock. She'd built Huntington Maritime into New York's largest luxury yacht company. People like Marcus were obstacles, urban debris. "That's a 60-foot Azimut Grande worth $3.2 million. Twin-man V12 engines, 1,900 horsepower. You look like you can barely operate a shopping cart." Marcus kept his gaze level. "I can navigate it." Blair's cold smile appeared, an idea forming. "Captain Homeless, get me to Jersey City Marine Terminal in 40 minutes, safe and sound, and I'll marry you. When you fail or crash my yacht, I'll have you arrested for theft." Marcus nodded once. "I accept." Blair felt a flutter of uncertainty as Marcus moved toward the Huntington Pearl. Not stumbling desperation, but the measured stride of someone who knew exactly where he was going. When his hands touched the helm with unconscious familiarity, when he glanced at the instrument panel and his jaw tightened imperceptibly, that flutter intensified. The twin engines roared to life with precision that silenced the dock. Marcus hadn't fumbled, hadn't searched. Nothing suggested this was his first time. Blair stepped aboard, suddenly aware she had no idea who this man was. Marcus guided the yacht away from the dock with the skill of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Where the hell did you learn to do this?" Blair demanded over the engine noise. "Places someone like you would never need to know about," Marcus replied, eyes on the water. Blair texted Trevor, "Run a full background check. Name, employment, criminal record, associates, everything. Now." Marcus heard every word, but remained unchanged. At 35, he'd endured far worse than the arrogance of a CEO who thought money made her invincible. What Blair didn't know, Marcus had spent 4 months studying her routine. He knew about the Jersey City meetings, her yacht habit, her dependence on Captain Reynolds, who'd called in sick after Marcus paid him $500. He'd waited patiently for this exact moment. If you're enjoying this twist and want to find out who Marcus really is and how Blair will react when she discovers the truth, don't forget to subscribe, because what's coming next will leave you speechless. The yacht cut through the Hudson with impossible smoothness. No rookie hesitation, no overcorrection, no panic. Marcus navigated like he was born on the water. Blair's phone buzzed. Trevor, nothing. Like he didn't exist before 2022. No employment, no credit history, no social media. Complete ghost. Her blood ran cold. People didn't materialize from nowhere, especially not with elite maritime skills. She typed back, "Keep digging." Military records, Coast Guard databases, everything. Marcus caught every word, jaw tightening, the only sign he'd heard. 3 years ago, Marcus had been Captain Marcus Vail, chief navigator of the luxury cruise liner Aurora Empress. He'd commanded 200 crew, transported thousands across the Atlantic, maintained a spotless 8-year safety record. His reputation was impeccable, until Blair Huntington boarded for a transatlantic crossing to London. The cruise was fully booked. Marcus noticed a young boy, maybe 8, standing at the gangway with his mother. She was dying of cancer, had saved 2 years to afford 1 ticket, for her son, wanting him to see Europe one last time with her. The last available spot, a first-class suite, cabin A1. Panoramic views, $45,000 for the crossing. Blair arrived minutes later, furious her assistant had forgotten to book her usual suite. She demanded cabin A1. That cabin has been allocated to a child whose mother is terminally ill, Marcus explained calmly. She saved 2 years. They're traveling together. Blair's face went crimson. You're giving a $45,000 suite to some charity case instead of a customer who actually matters? You just made the worst decision of your career. She pulled out her phone, speaking in low, venomous tones. 2 weeks later, Marcus was fired. Official reason: gross misconduct and inappropriate behavior toward a VIP passenger. Complete fabrication. Blair used her connections. Huntington Maritime held maintenance contracts with the Aurora Empress's parent company. Phone calls, pressure, incentives, threats. The cruise line cut Marcus loose. His maritime license was suspended during an 18-month investigation. No cruise line would hire him. His reputation was destroyed. His wife Jennifer couldn't handle it. I didn't sign up to be married to an unemployed man, she said before taking their 7-year-old daughter Emma to California. Marcus lost everything: career, family, home, identity. 6 months sleeping in his car, then a year in shelters. But one thing burned inside him. Blair Huntington destroyed his life because he dared to tell her no. For months of planning, researching, preparing, Blair thought he was invisible. She had no idea she sat 3 feet from the man whose life she destroyed for spite and ego. Approaching the terminal, Marcus announced. The docking was flawless. Marcus brought the Huntington Pearl alongside the pier with master precision. Blair stepped onto the pier on shaky legs. "Ms. Huntington," Marcus said, turning to face her directly. "A promise is a promise." Blair felt ice water flood her veins. Something in his expression, not just confidence, but knowledge. "You're insane if you think I'm marrying you." That was a joke. Marcus smiled for the first time, cold, calculated. "I understand sarcasm perfectly. Just like I understand verbal contracts, audio evidence, and witnesses." He pulled a digital recorder from his jacket. Trevor and Madison heard everything. This captured every word. Blair's blood turned to ice. "You wouldn't dare. A businesswoman like you understands keeping your word. Especially when people are interested in how Blair Huntington treats public commitments." "Who the hell are you?" Blair whispered. Marcus's smile faded, replaced by something colder. "Someone you should have remembered." Blair's phone buzzed. "Meeting in 15 minutes. Car waiting." "This isn't over," she said. "No," Marcus agreed quietly. "It's only just beginning." Blair closed the contract with ruthless efficiency, but one question haunted her. Who is Marcus Vale? The moment she signed, she called Trevor. "I want a complete report within 2 hours. Military records, Coast Guard files, prison records, everything." "We're trying, Ms. Huntington. Nothing exists before 2022. Then find where he disappeared from." Meanwhile, Marcus photographed every yacht component with a professional camera hidden in his jacket. Maintenance labels, serial numbers, inspection stickers. His phone vibrated. Documents ready. Meeting at 8 p.m. Usual place. After 3 years of meticulous planning, every piece was falling into position. That evening, Marcus met Nadia Cross at a Newark cafe. The 30-year-old investigator, sharp-featured with determined brown eyes, slid a thick folder across the table. "I got everything. Bank records, falsified maintenance reports, recorded calls. Everything to prove she orchestrated your dismissal through systematic corruption." Marcus opened the folder. 3 years of investigation stared back. Bank transfers from Huntington Maritime to cruise line executives, recorded calls where Blair discussed eliminating the Captain Vale problem. Internal emails fabricating misconduct allegations. "You weren't her only victim," Nadia continued, pulling out a second envelope. 7 other maritime professionals in 5 years. Captains, engineers, inspectors, anyone who contradicted her. Marcus took a slow breath. For years he'd questioned his decision about the boy and dying mother. Now, seeing Blair's systematic cruelty, he realized it was never about that decision. It was control, ego, pathological need to destroy anyone who said no. "There's more." Nadia opened her laptop. "The Huntington Pearl is 3 months overdue for critical maintenance. The fuel line has a documented crack. Safety inspection was fabricated. Blair personally delayed repairs to cut costs before quarterly earnings." Marcus's stomach dropped. "She put me on a boat that could explode? Not just could have. According to the marine engineer I consulted, with that fuel line crack, any sudden acceleration could cause catastrophic failure. You would have been blamed, inexperienced homeless man who stole a yacht and crashed through negligence. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Blair hadn't just humiliated him. She'd tried to kill him. She thought I'd die trying to navigate, Marcus said quietly. Nadia nodded grimly. Maintenance technicians who falsified documents agreed to cooperate. They'll testify Blair personally ordered them to ignore safety protocols. Marcus remembered the odd flicker in the fuel pressure gauge, the starboard engine's split-second hesitation. His maritime experience saved him. He'd automatically compensated for irregularities that would have killed anyone less experienced. What's our next move? Nadia's smile was razor-sharp. Tomorrow morning, Blair discovers that recording isn't just leverage. The U.S. Attorney's Office received an anonymous package tonight, all these documents. And a respected investigative journalist is extremely interested in how a CEO tried to murder a decorated Coast Guard veteran. Marcus looked up sharply. You found my service record? Captain Marcus Vale, U.S. Coast Guard, 8 years, 2 commendations for rescue operations in hurricane conditions, honorable discharge. Blair destroyed a genuine American hero because he prioritized a dying woman's last wish. The optics are devastating. And the marriage thing? Nadia laughed, pulling out another document. 3 contract law specialists consulted. Public proposal, verbally accepted, witnesses, audio recording, legally binding commitment. You fulfilled your end flawlessly. She's in breach of contract. I could sue her. Better. Breach of contract and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Decorated Coast Guard veteran, publicly humiliated by billionaire CEO, then nearly murdered when he completed the challenge. 8 figures in damages minimum. Marcus absorbed this slowly. Blair wove the noose for her own hanging. The marriage joke became legal contract. The murder attempt was documented. Years of corruption about to explode. Blair woke to 23 missed calls and broken glass in her gut. She grabbed her phone, called Trevor. What's going on? Ms. Huntington, we need to talk. Now. There's a maritime journalist downstairs demanding a statement about attempted murder and falsified safety documents. News vans from 3 networks outside. The phone nearly slipped from her fingers. The U.S. Attorney's Office called. They want you at 2 p.m. to answer questions about systematic fraud and attempted homicide. Blair stumbled to her television. The headline froze her blood. CEO tried to murder Coast Guard hero who saved dying mother's final wish. The reporter. Documents reveal systematic corruption at Huntington Maritime, including falsified safety certificates and attempted murder disguised as public humiliation. The victim, Captain Marcus Vale, decorated Coast Guard veteran, who Blair Huntington destroyed 3 years ago for prioritizing a terminally ill woman and her son over Huntington's luxury suite demand. The screen showed Marcus in crisp Coast Guard uniform, medals gleaming. Captain Marcus Vale. The name detonated in Blair's mind. She remembered. 3 years ago. Aurora Empress. That captain who denied her the suite, giving it to some dying woman and her kid. She'd made calls, destroyed his career for his insolence. She'd forgotten him within a week. Her phone rang. Madison crying. I'm all over the news as witness to attempted murder. My father's on the Maritime Safety Foundation board. This is destroying our family. I can't be associated. Blair hung up, called her attorney. His secretary. Mr. Chin is unavailable and can no longer provide representation due to conflicts of interest. The rats were abandoning ship. Blair rushed to her office through the service entrance. Complete chaos inside. Stock prices dropped 71% in 3 hours, her CFO reported, face gray. 4 major contracts canceled, including yesterday's deal. Board called emergency meeting for 4 p.m. On her desk, a folder. Inside, copies of everything, bank transfers, maintenance reports with her signature authorizing fraudulent inspections, recorded calls discussing destroying Marcus's career. A handwritten note. Compliments of Captain Marcus Vale. P.S. A promise is a promise. Her inbox was a massacre. Resignations from employees, partners, board members. One email hit hardest. From her sister Catherine. Blair, I can't defend you anymore. You need help. What you did to that man, to all those people, it's sociopathic. Don't contact me until you've faced what you've become. At 2 p.m., Blair sat in a federal interrogation room. Ms. Huntington, the lead prosecutor began, Captain Marcus Vail provided substantial evidence you orchestrated his termination through bribery and false allegations in 2022. Furthermore, you deliberately endangered his life yesterday by forcing him to navigate a vessel with documented safety violations. The prosecutor placed a recorder on the table, pressed play. Blair's voice filled the room. Listen, Richard, this Captain Vail needs to disappear. He humiliated me. I don't care what you fabricate, but I want him blacklisted. Huntington Maritime has $200 million in contracts with your parent company. I'm sure you understand the implications. Blair felt bow rise. She'd forgotten that call to Richard Chun, the Aurora Empress Operations Director. And this, the prosecutor continued, displaying a bank statement, is a $125,000 wire transfer from a Huntington Maritime subsidiary to an offshore account controlled by Mr. Chun 8 days after Captain Vail's termination. At 4 p.m., Blair faced the board. Her father, Harrison Huntington, sat at the head, disappointment devastating in his eyes. Blair, by unanimous vote, you are removed from all positions at Huntington Maritime, effective immediately. Dad, you can't. I can and I must. You didn't just damage this company. You turned our family legacy into a criminal enterprise. The Huntington name took 3 generations to build. You destroyed it in 3 years of systematic cruelty. Every face was stone. No allies. No mercy. Security will escort you out. You're no longer welcome at any Huntington Maritime property. Your credit cards are canceled, access revoked. We're cooperating fully with federal investigators. That night, Blair sat alone in her penthouse, watching her life disintegrate on television. Marcus being interviewed, impeccable in Coast Guard dress uniform, medals catching studio lights. Captain Vail, how do you feel knowing Blair Huntington tried to kill you yesterday? Marcus's response was measured, devastating. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how long suppressed. My only concern is ensuring no other maritime professional suffers what I suffered for prioritizing human life over a wealthy passenger's ego. The camera focused on his medals as the reporter explained. Captain Vail received the Coast Guard Medal for Valor for rescuing 12 people from a sinking vessel during Hurricane Maria. He was unjustly terminated for prioritizing a terminally ill mother and her son over a CEO's sweet demand. Blair's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Blair. Marcus's voice. What do you want? I want you to understand something. When you destroy someone's life out of spite, you're not just attacking one person. You're attacking everything they represent. I represented maritime integrity and human compassion. You destroyed that because I bruised your ego. Blair swallowed. I didn't even remember you. Of course you didn't. To you, I was invisible. Just like dozens of others you've destroyed. But here's the difference. When I fell, I learned to rebuild. When you fall, and you're falling now, you have no foundation. Everything you built was constructed on cruelty and corruption. You planned all this. I planned justice. Revenge would have been letting you continue in ignorance. Justice is ensuring consequences and protecting future victims. Why the marriage thing? For the first time, emotion edged Marcus's voice. 3 years ago, you didn't just fire me. You made sure I could never work again. You destroyed my marriage. My wife took my 7-year-old daughter to California because she was ashamed. I lost my career, family, home, identity, everything that made me who I was. Blair heard the crack in his voice and felt something rare, shame. The marriage proposal showed you what it feels like when someone mocks something sacred. You mock my dignity, my expertise, my existence. I wanted you to feel what it's like to have your promises turned into a public joke. I'm sorry, Blair whispered, meaning it. I know, but sorry doesn't undo 3 years of homelessness. Sorry doesn't bring back my daughter's childhood. Sorry doesn't restore the 7 others you destroyed. That's why justice requires more than apologies. The line went dead. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the same dock where it began. But now he wore a tailored suit, business card reading, Vail Maritime Consulting, Integrity First. He'd founded the company with the $8.7 million settlement. damages for breach of contract, attempted murder, and systematic defamation. 3 of Blair's former clients transferred contracts to him, along with 2 maritime safety organizations. "Daddy, is this where you were homeless?" Emma, now 10, looked up with curious eyes. She'd moved back after Jennifer saw the news and realized she'd abandoned a hero. "Yes, Princess. This is where I learned that falling down doesn't define you. Getting back up does." Emma hugged him. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Marcus looked across the Hudson, morning sun painting the water gold. Blair was bankrupt now, criminally prosecuted, working as an administrative assistant at a small Staten Island insurance company. The only job she could get. Her father had publicly disowned her. She lived in a studio apartment far from her former luxury. But Marcus didn't feel satisfaction from her destruction. He felt something more complex. Proof that justice, though delayed, could surface. His phone buzzed. Nadia, 2 more former maritime professionals reached out. Blair destroyed their careers too. They want to know if you're hiring. Marcus smiled. Vale Maritime Consulting wasn't just his second chance. It was becoming refuge for everyone Blair tried to erase. "Come on, Princess. I have to give a talk to young Coast Guard recruits today." At the Cape May training facility, Marcus stood before eager young recruits. "You're going to face people who try to diminish you. People who use wealth, connections, privilege to make you feel invisible. When that happens, remember, they're not revealing your weakness. They're revealing their fear of your strength." He paused, making eye contact with a young woman in the front row who reminded him of himself, determined but uncertain if the system would give her a fair chance. The best response to those who try to destroy you isn't retaliation. It's excellence. Build yourself into something so undeniable that their cruelty becomes the foundation of your success. Let their attempts to bury you become the soil from which you grow stronger. After several recruits approached for advice, encouragement, affirmation their dreams were valid, Marcus gave each his business card. "If you ever face injustice, if someone tries to destroy your career because you did the right thing, call me. You won't face it alone." That evening, watching sunset from his new office overlooking the marina, Marcus thought about Blair's question 6 months ago. Was it worth it? Destroying my life for revenge? His answer then was the same now. "I didn't destroy your life, Blair. You did that yourself, one act of cruelty at a time. I just made sure the world could finally see what you'd become." Justice wasn't about revenge or making enemies suffer. It was ensuring truth, no matter how buried, how long suppressed, eventually rose to the surface where everyone could see it. True victory wasn't Blair's bankruptcy or criminal record. It was the 8-year-old boy from 3 years ago, now 11, who'd sent Marcus a letter last month. "Dear Captain Vale, my name is Daniel Torres. You probably don't remember me, but 3 years ago you gave my mom and me a first-class suite, so we could travel together to London. My mom died 2 months after, but she got to see Big Ben, Tower of London, Buckingham Palace. She died happy. I saw you on the news. I'm sorry what that lady did to you. But I want you to know that because of you, my mom died happy. She got to give me one last perfect memory. Thank you for being a good person, even when it cost you everything. Daniel." Marcus had that letter framed in his office beside his Coast Guard Medal of Valor. It reminded him why he'd made that choice 3 years ago, and why he'd make it again, even knowing the cost. Some things were more important than career, wealth, or status. Integrity. Compassion. The courage to do right even when powerful people tried to punish you for it. As the sun set over the Hudson, painting the sky orange and gold, Marcus thought about the homeless man he'd been 6 months ago, waiting for his moment. That man was gone, transformed not by revenge, but by patient, methodical pursuit of justice. And somewhere in a Staten Island studio apartment, Blair Huntington was learning the hardest lesson. The people you make invisible never truly disappear. They're always there, watching, waiting, remembering. And sometimes they come back. Not as ghosts seeking revenge, but as living proof that character, not money, not status, not privilege, determines who you really are. Marcus texted Nadia, "Thank you. For everything." Her reply, "Justice isn't a solo mission, Captain. It takes a crew." He smiled. She was right. Nadia had sacrificed years investigating. Maintenance technicians risked careers to testify. Journalists prioritized truth over access. Daniel's mother taught her son gratitude mattered. Justice was collective effort, built by everyone who refused to let cruelty win. Daddy. Emma appeared in his office doorway. Mom says dinner's ready. Jennifer had moved back 3 months ago. Not to reconcile romantically, that ship had sailed, but to co-parent properly and apologize for abandoning him when he needed her most. People deserve the chance to grow from their mistakes, Marcus had told Emma. That's what separates us from people like Blair. As Marcus locked his office and took his daughter's hand, he felt something he hadn't in 3 years: peace. Not peace of revenge satisfied, but peace of knowing he'd turned the worst thing that happened into opportunity to protect others from the same fate. The best revenge against those who try to destroy you isn't destroying them back. It's rising so high their cruelty becomes a footnote in your success, a brief dark chapter that makes the triumph that follows more meaningful. Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you. What do you mean, princess? Someone who helps people even when it's hard. Someone who doesn't let mean people make them mean too. Marcus squeezed her hand, throat tight. You already are, Emma. You already are. And somewhere across the city, in a studio apartment with water-stained ceilings, Blair Huntington sat alone, finally understanding what she'd lost. Not money, not status, not power. She'd lost something far more valuable: the ability to look at herself in the mirror and see someone worth respecting. That was the real price of cruelty. Not legal consequences or financial ruin, but the moment you realize you'd traded your humanity for temporary superiority, and that no amount of wealth could buy it back. Some lessons can only be learned through loss, and some people never learn them at all. If this story of resilience and justice has touched you, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove character always rises higher than cruelty, that integrity outlasts arrogance, and that the people you try to make invisible often become the ones who change the world.